Greetings, I am Solidus-Skully and welcome to the final part of the Shadow the Hedgehog commentary. Now, gonna be pretty silent for most of this because, well, prepare for expository cutscenes that should have been better paced throughout the story. But you know what, I digress, so enjoy the cutscene and I'll see you in a bit.
Finally, I've got all the Chaos Emeralds. Now, I can uncover the truth about my past. All of it.
Well done, Shadow. Our ritual can now commence as planned. Give me the Chaos Emeralds.
Shadow!
Huh? Shadow, give me the Chaos Emeralds!
Do not give the emeralds to Black Doom, Shadow.
They're planning to destroy the planet.
Ignorant fools. We're here to save the humans from their own demise. We offer salvation.
What?
Their greed, thirst for power, and affinity for betrayal has them on a path of self-destruction. Their actions will lead to extinction of their species. We're here to save them from themselves with our perfect order, allowing them to live through their desperate lives in peace. Humans are a great energy source for us. They will be well kept. Let us begin our ritual of prosperity. Chaos Control!
This can't be happening!
What was that? What just happened?
Those black creatures just warped the comet down to the surface using Chaos Control!
No, that's impossible.
That's why you needed the Chaos Emeralds.
Precisely. The comet's velocity isn't powerful enough to pass through another planet's atmosphere. The emeralds amplify the space-time control powers of Chaos Control. We need them to charge to full power. It's the perfect plan. That's why I needed the professor to help me.
What? That's insane!
The professor was in development of the ultimate life force, but he needed my help. So we made a deal. I helped him, and he promised to deliver me the 7 Chaos Emeralds. That's how you were created, Shadow. You would help us do both.
Me? I can't believe it.
That can't be! He betrayed his own people for research? For Black Doom?
Big deal. We can't just stand here doing nothing.
Yeah, let's do this! I'll crush that cosmic rock ball!
Knuckles! What's wrong?
A special weapon. This gas, once released, is quickly absorbed into your bloodstream. In a moment, total paralysis will hit your nervous system. The end is near now. My dear offspring, eat and devour these savory dishes.
Back off, you slime balls!
What is that?
Shadow, you gonna help them? Seem to be in danger. Like, I mean, I know you've had plot revelations and everything, but you could get off your ass and, you know, help.
Remember, the humans are your
Those whose
enemy.
blood
Did
I gave you
die?
life, Shadow!
That's why you were created.
Please help me, Shadow.
the Hedgehog. I've left the past behind me. No one can tell me what to do now. I will destroy you, Black Doom!
I gave you life, and this is how you repay me? The irony of it all is I gave you life. Now, I'll take it back.
Shadow!
You're our only hope now!
Please, please don't leave us, Shadow. We need your help. Yes, but I kid. Anyway, final stage, which is pretty much an exact copy of the last wave from the Pure Hero storyline. So, yeah, somewhat of a letdown, but honestly, I think this level works better for the last wave than it does with the Final Haunt, which is what it's called in the Pure Hero storyline. Mostly for reasons of, you know, dramatic, this is the final level, let's kick some ass. Well, I wouldn't say this, in terms of staging, it's really so much let's kick some ass, it's more so, we're gonna put an end to this, and we're gonna find out the truth, for reals. I mean, we did get a massive plot explanation, which, again, as I alluded to minutes beforehand, it could have been far better paced in a much more natural story, because this is stuff that we should have been learning along the way. In fact, we did learn bits and pieces of this throughout the Semi-Hero storyline, but the biggest problem with this is, you know, for people who have been playing this game, throughout the 10 endings, which you do have to get, and there's a criticism that I will talk about, you know, when we get to the rest of the levels. However, by this stage, a lot of people are pretty fatigued, especially if they're marathon running this game. They're pretty fatigued, they just want it to end, and again, with this Metal Gear Solid level of cutscenes here, it just feels a little bit haphazard. Like, I mean, I know they wanted to wrap everything up for the final storyline, but I mean, if you really wanted to have this sense of finality to everything, you really should have positioned this naturally throughout a single story. And again, one thing I plan on bringing up if I ever get around to talking about this game is really that, in terms of how Shadow handles its endings, I really think it should have gone more so for the Silent Hill approach, where you have one single concise storyline. However, the actions that you have throughout the game, you know, in terms of what you do, whether or not you help heroes out on the side, or if you do a bunch of little things, actually, like use the heal capsules to heal, you know, gun soldiers or civilians, or if you destroy property, or if you, you know, complete, even some of the missions you could actually use to complete that and have that count towards your, like, hero score, which will ultimately determine what sort of ending you get. Again, it might not sound like I'm making sense, and maybe I'll have a more concise point if I, you know, give my fully fledged, actual, thought-out, scripted thoughts on Shadow the Hedgehog, but again, this game had a lot of potential, and the fact that people just seem to be like, oh, dark and edgy guns, let's never do this again, is just disappointing. Anyway, in terms of talking about this level itself, or at least in terms of gameplay, it's basically the last way, except you have to use Chaos Control, which is fine by me, because I'm always amused by the visual of Shadow warping through the stage. I will say, like I said before, it is a better fit for a final level than Final Haunt was, but anyway. There is something that I did also want to talk about, and that's mostly in regards to Black Doom as a villain. Conceptually speaking, I like Black Doom as a villain. I don't think he was written very well, which is the biggest pain, because he's written to be the sort of villain that tries to undermine Shadow's morality, or Shadow who's trying to side with against the humans, because, again, it's not explained very well, but it seems to be implicit that Black Doom views a lot of their ways in terms of, you know, the humans' single-mindedness, their reliance on technology, and their social structures to be unbeneficial, where I guess what's meant to be implied here is that because he and the Black Arms are united as one, whether that be as a hive mind sort of species or as more of a, you know, more of a naturalistic sort of species in terms of, you know, being fleshy organic creatures, the Black Arms ways are superior. I think there could have been some really interesting attempts at, you know, trying to allure Shadow and, by extension, the player to their side, but the game never really capitalizes on this, and as a result, Black Doom ends up being more of a Shadow, the humans suck, sort of villain, which, I mean, one thing I Black Doom over for most of the other Sonic villains that would come to follow in his wake, like, you know, the villains that came in Lost World and Forces and everything, is that, at the very least, Black Doom has a little bit more meat on his bones. Again, it's there, it's not very well developed, but it's at least something. And even now, actually, I don't even think the comic books actually did anything. In fact, I think the most they did was just say the Black Arms were sent off to another part of the galaxy to fight this other alien thingamafucker, except then there's Black Doom's son or some shit. I don't know. There's a reason I didn't follow the Archie comics, but anyway, they're dead now, and whatever. Don't take that as a criticism of the comics, by the way. I'm kind of indifferent about them. Anyway, I suppose just continuing to talk. Well, I mean, again, we're going to be getting everything about Gerald Robotnik later on, but again, I kind of brought this up in my Metal Gear 1 review back in 2016. But, again, the whole idea of Shadow being related to Black Doom, I feel is a retcon that isn't entirely necessary. I mean, granted, to me it's nothing as canon-breaking as the whole, you know, medic to big boss scenario in Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, but honestly, this entire thing just comes down as superfluous information that we don't necessarily need to know or needed to exist. And the reason why I bring up Metal Gear Solid 5 in this context is mostly because of the fact that while I do find the whole medic big boss thing a little bit more offensive, in Sonic Adventure 2, the whole reason behind the arc raid to begin with was because of the fact that they feared, well, the government in the 1950s, presumably government, had feared the research that Gerald Robotnik was doing in terms of, you know, what Shadow could do, and the destructive power of the Eclipse Cannon. Even though they did commission Gerald to build their weapons in the first place, it does create an interesting dynamic which, you know, I think does kind of have a little bit of an unwritten statement in there as to why Eggman was the way he was. I mean, again, it's nothing that they ever followed up on, and definitely something that it would never do now in a million years, because, you know, Sonic is for kids, tee-hee. But, you know, it was a sort of thing which, while it wasn't very well explained, it was one of the more murky elements of Sonic's storyline. It was interesting, and it had a sense of subtlety to it that we haven't seen, fuck me, in almost 20 years now. And that's really saying something. I'm trying to keep my Sonic apathy to a minimum, which I seem to have done a okayish job at so far throughout this commentary, at least compared to Sonic Adventure, but yeah, Shadow the Hedgehog is a game that I love, and a game that I don't hate, but just feel kind of sold short on for a little bit, but this game is just, it's nostalgic, it has a lot of, I don't know how to describe Shadow the Hedgehog and how I feel about it. I like the game, I genuinely do. But there's a lot of problems with it that don't turn me off from the game, but they just make me feel, it's kind of like Lament, really. Lament for a game that I think should have been great, but it doesn't have the potential, and nor will anybody see it live up to that sort of potential.
Well done, Shadow. You've gone farther than I expected. I'm impressed. But you still don't understand, do you? The future we offer is the only option for these humans.
I've heard enough. You're boring me to death, Black Doom. You're going down!
Such bravado for a little hedgehog. I thought you were different from the rest, but maybe not. We are more alike than you think. The same blood runs through our veins.
This can't be! Just... who are you?
Don't you know? You were created from my blood.
What?
That's right. You are a part of me. Do you feel that? I can control you. You cannot escape me, nor can you escape your past.
Damn you! No! It's not true!
Espio, are you in yet?
Quiet, Charmy! Espio, we need you to focus, because if we don't hurry, all the data we recovered will be lost!
Easier said than done. Who signed me up for this anyway?
That's it! I'll do it! Get out of the way!
Get back here, you idiot! Hey! It's working! Shadow, my son,
Professor?
What is this?
if you're listening to this, then the worst has happened. You need to know the truth. The government plans to shut down this research facility. The government plans to cease all of our research and imprison all who know about you. I made a terrible mistake, Shadow. It's all my fault. Making contact with that comet.
Professor Gerald?
Now listen very carefully. In 50 years, the Black Comet will return. They plan to harness its powers to destroy this planet. The only way to stop them was to develop a way to use the very power they intended to use against them. That's it! It's brilliant! Shadow, it's up to you, and only you can stop them. I developed the Eclipse Cannon. It's the only weapon that can destroy that black comet. Shadow, you are the only hope to save mankind as we know it. The future of this planet depends on you.
Don't worry, Grandfather. Shadow and I will protect this planet. Right, Shadow?
Gerald, you fool. Shadow is already in my control. What's this? Well. Seems like you're immune to my mind control.
You have no control over me, Black Doom. I now understand why I am here. I made a promise and I'm here to keep it. Today, I put my past behind me.
Have it your way, Shadow. So be it. Be prepared to meet your maker. Your past, present, and future ends here. Today, prepare to die. Say goodbye, Shadow, as you witness my true wrath.
So we come to our final battle against Devil Doom. A boss fight that a lot of people don't really like that much, but honestly, I really do like. And again, while a lot of people might disagree with me on this, I mean, the entire build-up to the climax against fighting, you know, Devil Doom as the final boss, I think is actually some pretty decent build-up, and in a much better game, I think honestly would have felt like a very climactic showdown, you know, for the 4 games that this has spanned, from Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, Sonic Battle, and then finally to this game. I mean, it does very much feel like the final chapter in a saga with the ultimate battle, and, you know, the staging for it is fucking brilliant, but what lets it down is ultimately the context that surrounds this game, and the fact that I honestly think Shiro Maikawa should have been put on the writing duties for this one, or at the very least having Takashi Iizuka and Shiro Maikawa both on the writing duties, because I think at least with Shiro Maikawa on hand, he would have been able to focus the ideas that Iizuka had, because I mean, as much shit as you can sling at Takashi Iizuka for being the ideas man he is, this is the same man who does have a lot of brilliant ideas, he really does, but he just needs someone to help focus them, I think. And that, you know, it's honestly what I loved about the Sonic Adventure era of games, is that, you know, they had a lot of these concepts, and while not a lot of them were really as refined as they could have been, there were ideas that had passion and energy behind them, which is compared to now, you know, where it's all very dry, sarcastic, you know, I mean, even beyond nostalgia pandering stuff, it just feels half-hearted, whereas here, they're going for it, man. Anyway, I think I should probably stop ranting about it now. I should probably talk about the boss fight. Devil Doom. You basically need to shoot Doom's Eye, which is the little blobfish thing that follows you throughout the entire game during the Dark storyline, and, well, basically whenever you have Black Doom as a side character. Out of the characters that you never get to play as in the game, which you can access using the second player controller, you can... The only 2 that you can't control is Eggman and Black Doom. Anyway, aim for his eye, and, well, just make sure he doesn't teleport away. Like all super form battles, make sure you don't lose all your rings, because if you do, well, you're gonna fall back to Earth and Black Doom will consume the planet. In fact, that's another thing, actually. I really do like Black Doom's goal in this game. I mean, it's not to conquer the world or destroy the humans, because he wants to use the humans as an energy source, which I'm guessing is a similar process to how it was in the Matrix, where, you know, the machines use humans as a sort of battery source. You know, which I think could have been interesting and cool, especially in the fact that in a better written game, the whole idea of him, we're here to save the humans. You know, trying to save the humans from themselves could have been an interesting spin had Black Doom's motivations actually been explored. But again, as I mentioned before, it isn't really explored to its fullest degree, which is why I think the writing needed much more focus than it was given. I mean, well, in terms of overall Sonic boss battles, though, this is honestly one of my favorites, I guess in a somewhat controversial move. I mean, I will say that I like this far better than I do the Metal Sonic boss fight in Sonic Heroes. I don't know, something about the Metal Sonic boss fight just... maybe it was the game itself that followed it, but I really didn't like Metal Madness. It was kind of a drag, to be perfectly honest. But you know, Devil Doom, I don't know, maybe it's like the music or the fact that Black Doom just seems to showcase his power a little bit more as he's lifting up buildings and firing, you know, death beams and lasers and all sorts of shit at you, but... I don't know, there's something about this boss fight that just feels very satisfying to me. Maybe it's the build-up of the last way, actually, where you're fighting through Black Doom's stronghold to just get to the main man himself, and by the time you get there, it feels like you're ready to take on the world. I don't know. It is something that does make me enjoy this boss fight a hell of a lot. Anyway, in this boss fight, you also get Chaos Spears, which you can hold the square button and charge up to the extreme. And honestly, this is an ability that I kind of wish you had during the game. Like, I mean, if you fill up the red gauge, you press a square button, and if you don't have a gun, you shoot Chaos Spears. Which, act in a similar manner to the Shadow Rifle, which is the final weapon you get from beating the game. Which I, honestly, you know, I think it could have been cool. And honestly, I said it time and time again, but I really do wish this concept would have been brought back in a future Sonic game. I mean, if not just for Shadow, I mean, considering the experience that Sonic has with it, I think he could have used it as well. And I mean, I'm gonna keep on repeating this until I die, because I still think that Shadow the Hedgehog has the most versatile moveset of pretty much the Adventure era, and if the Adventure gameplay style was to be brought back, I'd honestly like to see some of Shadow's additions be brought to the forefront, because, I mean, in the hypothetical scenario that we did get in Adventure 3, I think Shadow the Hedgehog was probably the closest that we ever really came to it. Which might be a bit of an offensive term to some people, because, you know, this game was Shadow trying to have his own identity, but honestly, considering that this has ties, you know, to the prior Adventure games, this also has, you know... This also has a very similar structure to the Adventure games, but with with a little something new added to it, kind of like how Sonic Adventure to Sonic Adventure 2 had a bit of a different structure to it while maintaining similar gameplay elements.
Impossible! I am the supreme being that rules this universe. I am the immortal life form. I am the ultimate power.
Sorry about that, kind of had to cut my tangent off there, but anyway, kind of forget about that, I was just sort of rambling to save space on time. Anyway, we've finally beaten Black Doom, and now we're gonna close the book on this chapter for good. Oh yeah.
Only one thing left to do. To put the past behind me. Chaos Control! Shadow, that was sweet!
I hope he's okay.
I'm sure he's fine, Rouge. After all, he is Shadow.
How about giving me back those Chaos Emeralds now? Hey! Get back here, you creep! After the way we all treated him, he saved us all in the end. We were all wrong about the Professor. Let us pay homage to Professor Gerald. Let's work to ensure peace and prosperity for a brighter future. What do you say, Commander?
Excellent idea, Mr. President.
Goodbye forever, Shadow the Hedgehog.
Shadow the Hedgehog. That would have been a perfectly poignant ending had actual storyline development actually been a thing in this game. I really do like the ending of Shadow the Hedgehog, especially in, like, the last storyline, and again, I know a lot of people are probably going to ape the similar sentiments echoed by people like Some Call Me Johnny, in the sense that because of the fact that Shadow has a final story, it makes all the other endings invalid. Again, to a certain extent, I can sympathize, but honestly, do you really want the ending where Shadow laughs like a madman going, "I'm gonna conquer the universe," and then having it cut to credits really be a satisfying ending to you? Or are you gonna have the one that's built up by actual pathos and, while it wasn't exactly developed, an ending that does feel like a natural conclusion to Shadow's storyline? This game... Again, the reason I wanted to do this commentary before I hopped over to Silent Hill Downpour, which I'm doing next, is because I do genuinely love Shadow the Hedgehog. I want to make that very clear. Again, this game to me, I've played this since 2005, I have a lot of nostalgia for it admittedly, but even growing up and seeing some of the flaws that it has in the years since, they aren't flaws that make me angry, just a little bit depressed that it fell short of the mark, that a lot of people didn't really see the good in it, and in that sense, just kind of deride the game as being basically being a product of its times of early 2000s nu metal, extreme aggression, all that sort of thing, which... This game could have been amazing, and honestly, I think a sequel honestly could have ironed out a lot of the problems this game had. Because, I mean, reportedly, and again, this is just based on, you know, speculation and general stuff around 2005, but this was going to be a potential launch for Shadow having a separate series, which, you know, could have been cool. I mean, you could have probably solved the whole divide between, you know, people who want serious storylines in Sonic games and people who just want lighthearted, goofy, whatever sort of stories. But again, I'm saving my angst for later. The main reason why I'm just covering the semi-hero storyline, as I mentioned before, again, the one that has the most cohesive story, the one that has at least some decent development and ideas thrown in there, and lastly, I think in terms of tying into the conclusion, as you saw with the chaotics in the earlier cutscenes, it just works. Again, as I mentioned before, I like the gameplay, and the main reason why I'm saving all the other levels for October, as I mentioned before as well, it's the season of the spook, and I want to save a few other short little projects for that as well, but you'll come to see that later on. Also, this is honestly one of my favourite Crush 40 songs of all time. I really do like Never Turn Back. I mean, it really does give you that whole feeling of you've been on a long journey and now it's finally come to its peaceful conclusion. It's great, man. It's just radical. I suppose if nothing else, this commentary was meant to be more so me lamenting the fact that Shadow was probably never going to be given this sort of attention again. Well, more Shadow, and by extension the Sonic series, is never really going to be given this sort of treatment again, especially given the wake of Sonic Forces release, which has pretty much scared Sonic seeing him off of pretty much ever trying to make a game with any sort of effort put into it again. But I guess also in turn celebrating a little piece of my childhood, and something that I guess also celebrates that even though this game is fundamentally flawed in a lot of aspects, there are a few bits and pieces of this game that are legitimately fantastic, and something that I did want to share with you people. You see, I'm not totally cynical about the Sonic series. They have things I like about it, even though those things are nearly 15 years old now. Fuck me, that really... God, is this what getting old feels like? Jesus Christ. I'm kind of terrified now, to be perfectly honest. But anyway, for those of you wondering what's coming next in terms of commentaries, although... well, I mean, if you're even interested, I wanted to balance things out by making things like Platformer, which you saw earlier on in the year with... Fuck, what did I do earlier on in the year? I can't even remember. Anyway, coming up next is... well, a game that I've pretty much been bringing up time and time again throughout this commentary. Coming up next is Silent Hill Downpour, a game which I am playing right now, which I've actually nearly finished. But I'm not going to finish it tonight, because, well, I need to commentate over Shadow the Hedgehog, and then I'm going to get drunk. Because I need a beer, and I've been recording this commentary all Friday night. So on that note, I'm Solidus-Skully, keep it new metal, hope you've enjoyed the Shadow the Hedgehog commentary, and keep it radical, dudes.